The NBA draft is tomorrow night, Spurs fans, and our San Antonio Spurs could draft Shaedon Sharpe, Bennedict Mathurin, or AJ Griffin. What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. I did a poll recently, right there, asking you who would you want to draft out of these five players as they're all ranked between 7 and 11, and Jalen Duren overwhelmingly won our poll at 57%. However, a lot of you asked a little bit here about Shaedon Sharpe, Bennedict, and Agent Griffin, and I haven't done a draft preview on them. With the draft being tomorrow night, I don't have time to just squeeze out 3 videos, so we're going to talk about all 3 players at once. A quick scouting report on all 3 players, their strengths, their weaknesses. I'll leave the links to each article I'm going over in the comments down below. While I'm talking about each player, any one of these guys that you would prefer over the other, hit that thumbs up, like support a fellow Spurs fan, and subscribe for more Spurs content. I will, of course, be live for the draft tomorrow night. Anyway, let's start off with Shaedon Sharpe. Who is he? Well, the former number 1 recruit in the high school class of 2022 went through early enrollment at Kentucky, living on campus while taking classes and practicing with the basketball team a year ahead of schedule. Sharpe was cleared to suit up for the Wildcats this season, but the 18-year-old, he's now 19, never ended up taking the floor, leaving Big Blue Nation without having played a single game. So he did not play any college basketball. It's obviously a negative. Let's get to his strengths, though. He's 6'6", 200 pounds with a reported 7-foot wingspan. Sharpe has the size and length of a prototypical shooting guard at the NBA level. Yes, Spurs fans, another guard. It is what it is. The first thing I'll stand out is his explosive leaping ability, using quick twitch athleticism to elevate when attacking the rim, punishing anyone in his path. And a good example, and I've kind of queued these up. Check this out, Spurs fans. And thunder dunk of justice for Shaedon Sharpe. And one. I didn't notice it the first time. I just noticed the referee in the back was given the old and one. He got fouled. Anyway, he's an ambidextrous driver and finisher, keeping defenders off guard with the willingness to attack with either hand. And yeah, we're going to play another clip. Why not? We got it queued up. Here he's in the bottom. Starts to drive, backs up, takes off, and boom, shakalaka. I love dunks, and he is clearly a powerful finisher at the rim. That being said, he's not just a dunker. He's already developed an NBA-ready arsenal of step backs and gathers to create his own shot from the perimeter, and we're going to see an example of that right here. Here's that on three-point land, and step, and shoot, and score. Okay, anyway, let's get more into the article. Shaedon Sharpe. That size-up dribble into a behind-the-back step back is lethal. He was only 17 at the time of that clip. Okay, so he's obviously got some talents, and we have this little article from, or note from the tweet, whatever, from Jonathan Givenoy. Watch it. Look at the air, by the way. Look at the air, Spurs fans. Reminds me of me when I jumped towards an 8-foot rim. Anyway, watch Shaedon Sharpe in a competitive one-on-one workout today. Combination of size, length, frame, fluidity, scoring instincts, and defensive versatility are incredibly impressive. Looks like the number 1 pick in the draft in this setting. Talent. Okay, got a lot of positives. Also, the 19-year-old is a special talent with a limitless ceiling, well worthy of a top 10 pick despite never playing a game at the Division I level. All right? He does have his weaknesses, though, Spurs fans. He can make simple reads, but he's not an advanced playmaker by any means, which could limit him to being strictly a scorer. Well, that's all right. DeJounte Murray is going to be running the show for our offense, so don't need him to be out there running the show. DeJounte, Trey Jones, we need a scorer. We need a guy that can score 20-plus points. Another guy that can score 20-plus points a game. Anyway, he's a streaky shooter and has a tendency to settle for jumpers when he could attack the basket, but iffy shot selection often goes hand in hand with being the best player on the floor in high school. Okay, so take that with a grain of salt. Since he never suited up for Kentucky, the last time Sharpe has played competitively was in high school, where the talent disparity is incomparable to going up against the best players in the world. It will be interesting to see how Sharpe responds to a drastic change in the level of competition. So that could be a concern. He's dominating high school players, and then he gets to the NBA, and it's a totally different setting. Anyway, we have also a player comparison, Spurs fans. Sharpe's game has shades of last year's number 2 overall pick, Jalen Green. All right, nothing wrong there. While there are more question marks around Sharpe given his lack of competition over the last 2 years, there's little doubt that he possesses a high ceiling as a volume scorer. A classic boom or bust candidate, Sharpe could evolve into a 20 or 25 point per game scorer, which means in 5 years we're wondering how he didn't go higher. And that's Shaedon Sharpe. And my take on everything I read, I mean, If we draft him, the big question mark would be in, and the Spurs could be Spursy and draft the best player on board, Spurs fans, is if we draft him, what happens with Lonnie Walker? That pretty much guarantees I would think that he's gone. What happens to Devin Vassell? Do you start Shaedon Sharpe? It's a lottery pick, a high lottery pick, a top 10 pick. Does he immediately get thrust in the starting lineup? And is now Devin Vassell, who was a starter last year, now back to the bench and a six-man. Shaedon Sharpe is six-man. I don't know what the Spurs would do. I wouldn't be unhappy if they drafted him. There's obviously a lot of talent there, but not playing in college does concern me a little bit. Up next, Bennedict Mathurin, and my apologies if I'm saying that wrong. Let's get into Bennedict. Who is he? And what does he do, Spurs fans? The NBA draft features a prospect who catches fire and starts shooting up draft boards in the weeks leading into draft day. Well, enter Bennedict Mathurin, the Canadian guard who became a household name in the NCAA tournament, putting on a show to lead Arizona to the Sweet 16. That is not Bennedict Mathurin right there. That is a dog jumping over a pole. At 6'6", 195 pounds with a reported 6'9" wingspan, Mathurin has the size, length, strength, and quickness to hold his own against any perimeter player in the NBA. And he's only 19 years old. All right, so that's two 19-year-old players. What are his strengths? What separates Mathurin as an NBA prospect is his ability to knock down jumpers in a variety of ways. More than comfortable shooting off the bounce, but also willing to play off ball and come off screens and cuts to free himself up for open looks. Mathurin's jump shot is clean and confident. He has a quick and high release and doesn't get fazed by defenders challenging his shot. He's always looking to stop on a dime and pull up for a jumper, almost to a fault at times, forcing contested shots or looks, but he's a tough shot maker. All right, well, we got clips of Bennedict as well, so let's jump into this. And a long three. Okay, I see it from here. All right. Also, he does not shy away from contact at the basket, and he uses his elite athleticism and body control to finish amongst the trees. The trees. Okay. He'll go right at anyone standing between him and the rim, but he also has developed a reliable floater to keep rim protectors guessing, which is good. You don't want to be predictable going into the paint. My favorite player, Keldon Johnson, puts his head down, and he can get a little predictable at times and get stopped by said trees, but this is good that he has versatility that can keep defenders guessing. He's going up for a dunk, a layup. He's going to throw it up high off the glass. Good to know. He also shows patience to let plays develop before finding the best way to feed an open teammate. So here he is out in three-point land. He'll dribble, looking, and finds the open man for the alley-oop. Okay, so he's a good passer. That's never a bad thing to have on your team, another good passer. Mathurin is incredibly active with a high motor, always moving or cutting, making him a headache for opposing defenses. Because he is strong, athletic, and physical when he attacks the basket, he has no problem making cuts that lead to tough finishes. And speaking of tough finishes, check this out, Spurs fans. I like this one. And over to Bennedict, and boom! Shakalaka! Thunder! Dunk of justice! And actually, this gets the, look at, I mean, come on. We don't see a lot of that with our San Antonio Spurs right now, almost none of that. And that just going to the hole, finishing strong, and sending a message to the other team, get out of my way. I love it. Absolutely love it. Even though he projects as a combo guard, Mathurin thriving at the next level as more of a shooting guard than a point guard. So, another guard. Yes, Spurs fans, another guard, and this will raise the exact same questions that I briefly mentioned with Shaedon Sharpe. If the Spurs draft Bennedict Mathurin, is he coming off the bench? Is he immediately a starter? What's this mean for the development of Devin Vassell? What's it mean for the development of Joshua Primo? I forgot to mention him earlier with Shaedon Sharpe. We still have a lot of young guards, wings, combo, whatever you want to call them. This is why I still think we need a big man, but if they draft Bennedict, obviously I'll be very happy. He shows a lot of talent. However, he's not perfect, Spurs fans. He does have some weaknesses. Mathurin has the tool to be a lockdown perimeter defender, but isn't always dialed in. He tends to get too relaxed coming out of his defensive stance. He can be pesky and annoying on ball and take some risks off ball, but he has a long way to go when it comes to defending endless pick and rolls at the next level. Offensively, he's improving as a passer, but he still has to fine-tune his handle as he is more reliant on his first step and strength to get by defenders than he is as a quick twitch reactive dribbler to shake his man. Okay, I mean, these are all things. A lot of these guys' weaknesses, they're young. They'll fix them throughout their NBA. Hopefully for them, they'll fix them throughout their NBA career. And finally, player comparison. Mathurin has shades of Zach LaVine and Celtics guard Jaylen Brown in his game. Okay, that's not a bad thing. Mathurin oozes star potential, and there's a world in which he evolves into the best player in this draft. Okay, so closing out, I would be very happy if we drafted Bennedict. From what I'm reading, from the highlights I've seen, could be a very good player with a very high ceiling. My only concern is the same with Shaedon Sharpe. What happens with the roster? Whose minutes are getting cut? Are we hurting somebody else's development to develop this player? And that's one thing you never want to do, in my humble opinion, is while you want to develop player A, you don't want to do it at the expense of player B, especially if they've been in your system a year or two. Some of you may say that Lonnie Walker's been that player B whose growth has been hampered by all the guards we've drafted. And I probably wouldn't argue with that. Last but not least, and to my apologies to anybody that's an AJ Griffin fan, there's quite a bit of negativity in the scouting report. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a scouting report by the Sporting News for him. The Sporting News did the previous two, and they did a fantastic job. Strengths, weaknesses, comparisons, multiple video clips. So I just only have an article on AJ Griffin, and it does have some positives, but it does have some negatives too. So AJ Griffin, well, let's talk about him. AJ Griffin is a fascinating overall evaluation, even if teams may end up primarily having a fear of overdrafting the young forward. I thought that was an odd opening statement. I was like, wait, overdrafting? So, all right, let's move on. What's going on with him? He's 19, so he's turned 19 in August. We have 3 players, all 19. So if the Spurs draft any one of these guys, all in on the youth movement. He already has the NBA body, but isn't well developed on the defensive end of the court and doesn't yet have a diverse set of skills to put to use offensively. However, the shooting is a skill that separates him from almost every other player in the class. He converted nearly 45% of his 159 attempts from the perimeter during a single season at Duke. The motion is pristine, even if the release point is a little lower than you'd like considering his frame. So he's a fantastic shooter, something that the Spurs obviously could use. However, some have voiced concern that Griffin may not be dynamic enough attacking closeouts, but his best current NBA skill is likely his ability to use a dribble or two to relocate still behind the three-point line and to generate a high percentage shot. So he's a three-point shooter. He's currently a bit of a straight-line driver with a limited handle and a deliberate decision-making process. His play in this area is a fair concern. Now that reminded me also of Keldon Johnson. A straight-line driver, goes right into the paint, and I don't know if that would be good to have 2 players with that type of playmaking on the same roster. So let's move right along. Moving right along. I don't want to focus on the negative, and I don't want to beat up KJ in this video either. Griffin is a long way from being able to reliably run a pick and roll or execute in the dribble handoff. He admits that in high school and AAU environments that he was mostly interested in dribbling into his elite step back jumper. By all appearances, his ball handling and decision making suffered as a result. But this is a player who will spend his entire rookie season at 19. First, he needs to be part of an NBA organization that excels in player development. Okay, good. Next, he needs to play in an offensive system that is more prescriptive than organic. Memphis being a good example. I want to be honest, I'm not really sure what they mean by that. Anyway, otherwise, he'll likely need a role that has him starting nearly all possessions in a spot-up role. So a spot-up three-point shooter would be his ideal situation in his rookie season. Defensively, he has a lot of improvement that is needed, and the more limited his future offensive role will be, the more important will be from a significant advance on that end of the court. He's currently an unimpressive lateral athlete that significantly struggles to keep ball handlers in front. All right. Griffin demonstrates that he knows how to put his body and strength to work in the post, where he holds up much more successfully as a defender. Okay, that's good to know. For this reason, he may project more as a power forward at the NBA level and may pair best playing with another forward that profiles depending on ball reliably. Defending on ball reliably. Wow, that's not kicking my butt. So, is any of that undersized for power forward? Didn't I just read he's 6'6"? He's got a 6'10" wingspan, 6'6", 200 pounds. He turns 19. I suppose he could continue growing a little bit more. But it sounds like to me he'd be more of a small forward or a combo forward. Anyway, Griffin is being mocked toward the end of the lottery at this point, but he may have a draft range that is hard to pin down as for any player in this class. Teams may trust his ability to take coaching, considering he's been coached by an NBA coach his entire basketball life. That would be his dad. And that may help get him drafted earlier than he otherwise might be selected. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. Out of the 3 players I've talked about today, yes, he's an elite three-point shooter. However, it looks like there's a lot of negatives with his game. He's probably the player I would be least interested in out of those 3, and you guys actually confirmed that as well. If we go back to the poll I did on TSR Sports, he was the lowest player at 5%, Johnny Davis next at 9%, Bennedict at 14%, Shaedon 15%, and then Jalen Duren overwhelmingly won the competition, if you will, at 57%. I'll be happy if any of these guys get drafted. I might not be happy draft night. I might have a negative reaction. If I don't think I would have a negative reaction towards really any of these guys. Maybe AJ Griffin, I won't be thrilled, but I'll root for any of these players. Hopefully, become great San Antonio Spurs. If I had to pick one between the guys I did today, Spurs fans, Shaedon Sharpe, Bennedict Mathurin, or Johnny Davis. Or not Johnny Davis. I'm sorry, AJ Griffin, Shaedon, Bennedict, or AJ. I probably would go with Bennedict. AJ seems like he has the most flaws in his game from what I've researched. Shaedon did not play basketball last year. He didn't play any college ball, any Division One, whereas Bennedict had an incredible showing in NCAA tournaments. Who I would lead towards Bennedict. But again, if any one of these guys get drafted tomorrow night, I'll be rooting for him. If the Spurs draft somebody I've never heard of at number 9, then I might throw something. So I can't wait for the NBA draft. I am so excited for tomorrow, Spurs fans. We still have 4 picks. Trade tomorrow night, or are we actually going to draft 4 guys? Damn. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow night, and as always, go Spurs, go!